Today unfolded in a rhythm I didn't expect, one that began with plans of power and precision, only to turn into a sequence of interruptions that tested both patience and adaptability. The plan was simple. We would run the large capacity machine set to boost production to its full potential. It was a plan that symbolized progress, scaling up, optimizing, doing more with less time. Yet as the morning began, an electrical short circuit brought everything to a halt before we even had the chance to warm up. The first 2 hours of the shift were spent operating with the smaller machine set, one that could only handle a fraction of the intended load. It wasn't ideal, but it was movement. And in moments like these, forward motion, however small, is better than inertia. When the electrical issue was finally resolved and the main machine began to hum again, it felt like a small victory. That quiet satisfaction of seeing things align again. But life, or perhaps the rhythm of the field, had another lesson prepared. Not long after we resumed, the excavator's panel threw an error, stalling the process once more. I watched the operators troubleshoot, their expressions mixed with determination and fatigue. It's in moments like this that leadership often demands silence more than speech. Not the kind of silence born from helplessness, but from awareness. I realized that sometimes the most valuable presence a leader can offer is calm. The kind that doesn't deny the chaos, but absorbs it and steadies the ground beneath the team. Eventually, the technical issue was solved, but nature wasn't as forgiving. The sky darkened, and heavy rain poured down, accompanied by strong winds that swept across the site. Within minutes, the roar of machinery gave way to the roar of thunder. Power went out again, and I knew the decision was no longer in our hands. We had to stop. Production halted, not because of failure, but because of respect for safety, for nature, and for limits beyond control. I gathered the team, redirecting them toward inspection and cleanup tasks in the safer areas of the site. There was a quiet discipline in their movement, a shared understanding that the day had taken its own shape, and that our job was to move with it rather than against it. As the rain softened into a steady drizzle, I took a moment during lunch to breathe, to shift my mind from operational focus to a more personal reflection. It was then that something unexpected caught my attention. A man walking by, wearing a lanyard with the name of a cosmetics manufacturing company. It was a small detail, almost insignificant in the midst of a day like this. Yet it sparked a sense of curiosity in me. My thoughts wandered from crushed stone and mechanical breakdowns to the world of product development, branding, and the intricate business behind beauty manufacturing. A completely different universe, but one that, in its own way, still revolved around production, quality, and innovation. That curiosity led me down a mental rabbit hole. I started researching, at first casually, then more intently, about the concept of maklon, or contract manufacturing, especially in the beauty industry. I wanted to understand how it worked, the process of turning an idea into a tangible product, the investment required, the supply chain, the projections, the financial model. It wasn't just idle curiosity. There was something deeply appealing about the idea of creating something of our own, a business built from thought, crafted with intention, and shaped by our shared values. When I shared what I'd found with my wife, her eyes lit up in that familiar way that told me she could see it too. The dream of building something together, something that wasn't just about profit, but about purpose. Yet reality has a way of grounding imagination. We both knew that we weren't ready, not yet. The idea was exciting, but readiness isn't about enthusiasm alone. It's about stability, timing, and focus. For now, our hands are still full with the present responsibilities, with the commitments that demand our energy each day. Still, even as we acknowledge that, there was a quiet sense of hope, the kind that doesn't fade with postponement, but matures with patience. In hindsight, the entire day felt like a metaphor, a series of starts and stops, plans disrupted by forces both technical and natural. But beneath it all was a constant adaptation. From electrical faults to heavy rain, from production halts to new curiosities about an entirely different field. The rhythm of the day was teaching me to stay fluid. I realized that progress isn't always about acceleration. Sometimes it's about maintaining composure through delay, staying curious when momentum slows, and keeping hope alive when readiness seems distant. What struck me most was how both the mechanical and the personal stories of the day converged on the same truth. Everything worthwhile demands timing, endurance, and faith. Machines break, skies pour, plans shift, but the capacity to endure, to keep observing, to keep learning, is what separates growth from frustration. Just as the large machine couldn't run until the system was stable, dreams, even those that shimmer quietly in the background, like building a family business, also need their systems aligned, mental, emotional, and financial. Tonight, as I think back on the day, I feel neither disappointed nor defeated. Instead, there's a calm acceptance, a recognition that disruption often carves space for reflection. The production will resume, the machines will run again, and perhaps one day, that conversation with my wife will grow into something real. Something built not in haste, but in readiness. For now, I'll take this day as a reminder. Not every pause is a setback. Sometimes it's simply life clearing the air, teaching us to wait for the right alignment before the next surge forward. And in that stillness, I find peace. Not because everything went right, but because I learned to stay right, even when everything else didn't.